In this video, I've gathered every board game YouTuber on the internet and had them each share their #1 expansion of all time. So stick around to hear from Shut Up and Sit Down, Before You Play, The Dice Tower, Things Get Dicey, Our Family Plays Games, and tons more.
Hey friends! Today I'm going to be chatting all about my favorite expansion of all time. If you guys do not know, Hadrian's Wall is one of my favorite games, and in Hadrian's Wall there seems to be this issue where no one really pays attention to the gladiators. Bobby Hill and Shem Phillips have come together and they have made the Gladiators Matter 2 expansion. And this expansion just brings in so many ways to make sure the gladiators know that they matter and that we love them. And so in this expansion, you can give the gladiators flowers, you can serenade them with a song, all of this to make sure that the gladiators know that they truly matter and they are just a part of Hadrian's Wall as Hadrian himself.
Hey everybody, this is Mike, and my favorite expansion, no question, is Spirit Island Colonial Might. If you don't know what this is, I don't know where you've been under a rock. This is the long-awaited competitive expansion for Spirit Island, where you finally get to play as the European powers invading the island, because cooperation gets a little dull sometimes, and I want more variety in my gameplay. And this also addresses a major wrong thematically, because how many games do we have where you control spirits defending an island? 50, 100, but how many games do you have where you control a European power taking over land and engaging in mercantilism? Pretty much none that I can name. So Spirit Island Colonial Might fixes that wrong, and I could not be more pleased with it. This game is finally getting to my table again because it had just been languishing on my shelf for years.
Hi Jeff Dragon's Tomb, Tom from Shut Up and Sit Down here, and I'm going to tell you about my favourite board game expansion. I've been playing a lot of Heat Pedal to the Metal recently and really enjoying the recent expansion to the game that's added features that fans all over the world have been crying out for. That's right, it's time to talk about the new Heat expansion, Flamme Rouge. Taking its name from that bit of cycling where your legs hurt real bad, the Flamme Rouge expansion lets players swap out their cars for bikes. Not motorbikes, no, standard acoustic pedal bikes. If you do this, it will mean that you will place last in any given race because you're on a bike and they're in a car. But it really reinforces how fast these cars are going when you can't catch up with your human legs and your metal bicycle. It's even got rules that accurately model what happens when one of your cyclists gets caught under the wheels of these F1 cars. Players will roll on a damage table and find out how many of their nice limbs are broken again. An excellent expansion and a real challenge for players who think they've got the most out of Heat. Can you beat those cars on a bike? No. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.
One of my favorite games of all time is Champions of Midgard, and everybody talks about the Valhalla expansion because you get rewarded for your dice that die in combat. But in my opinion, not enough people talk about the Berserk expansion. It's my favorite expansion for the game. It replaces all of the dice in the game with one giant dice, and you roll it only once at the start of the game. You roll it right to begin the game, and then you determine right then whether you will lose every combat for the rest of the game or win every combat for the rest of the game. I think the tension of dice combat is overrated, and I'd rather know right from the start whether it's going to go my way or not for the next 2 hours.
Arkwright is one of our favorite board games, but we always thought it was too light and too short.
With the new expansion, Pay Your Taxes, all of that is finally fixed.
Between each game round, you now get a new 1-hour real-time segment where you do your company's taxes.
Invoices, adjusted gross income, and even child and dependent care credit, it's all there.
Now it finally feels like real work when you're playing Arkwright.
We highly recommend this expansion when you need that short and sweet 12 to 16 hours escape from reality.
Nobody expected the next expansion to Lost Ruins of Arnak to be an augmented reality game. I thought I was just gonna have to dial a couple phone numbers, visit some website addresses. I didn't expect first mission to have to book a plane ticket to Costa Rica. To finish that mission, I had to contract actual malaria. I'm on my way now to subdue a prehistoric warthog. This is ridiculous, you guys.
Guess what game has a new expansion?
What?
point salad.
What?
The Burger Bar expansion.
Yes, hamburgers, baby.
Hamburgers.
Yeah.
So in this expansion,
Okay.
you're going to use most of the original salad cards, such as tomatoes and lettuce and onions.
Okay.
But you're going to be adding meat patties, buns, cheese, condiments, all of those things.
Okay.
And in this expansion, you will feel like a burger chef.
Now, just like the regular game, this expansion is going to have you drafting cards, trying to get a combination of veggies, meats, and toppings on your burgers. Yeah. Now, if you can get the most points, you win. If you're lucky. So come on, chefs, let's do this. Yeah.
Voidfall is my favourite game of 2023. I was very excited to find out about the new expansion, Voidfall: The Void Has Fallen. One of my favourite things about the game is the deterministic combat, but it isn't for everybody. And one of the things the designers have addressed in this new expansion is that they have introduced some optional rules to resolve combat using, of course, the dice. Now, Voidfall is a game of skill, not luck, and simply rolling the dice to determine who wins the combat would be too random. The designers have kept the skill element of the game at the forefront of their design. In combat, you remove the little spaceships from the board and then take it in turns to flick the dice across the table, trying to knock your opponent's ships over. And if you do, you win. The other big thing that they've addressed with the expansion is the shocking mis-selling of the game. I mean, it's called Voidfall, but nothing actually falls, right? Well, now it does. If you develop a special super technology, you get to drop a new void tile from 47 centimeters above the table, and anything it touches is destroyed. I can't wait to get my hands on this new expansion, and neither can my mate Steve.
My favorite expansion for a board game is the Skeletons in the Closet expansion for Betrayed House on the Hill. It's a super immersive theme where it's not just about looking for the traitor in the game, but also the traitor at the table. You're revealing secrets that you've been holding back and finding out who in your real life has actually betrayed you. I've just never had a game stick with me for so long after the game night ended. Sorry, hold on a second. It's my therapist calling. Hey, yeah, things are fine.
Hey everybody, my number one expansion, I'm excited to reveal it. It is the Canvas Human Subject expansion. I'm not usually one for premium components, but this is where I'll make the exception. It comes with these 120 giant double-sided colorful sleeves and 6 incredibly willing human participants. I have to say, the Kevin module is very good, very muscular, very handsome. Also has this sort of legacy crossover with another game, which I've never seen before. You can use this as a legacy expansion for Abomination Era Frankenstein, but I've heard that you cannot use it for Canvas afterwards because you have to destroy some of the components. But I think it's worth it, and it's definitely something that I'm excited to try later on.
The best expansion for us ever made is Legacy of Me from Legacy of You. Makes sense, right?
Exactly. It's the much more sort of introspective view of the classic legacy story.
Yeah, well, Shem Phillips shared with me that lots of you complain about how come it's all about you, why can't it just be about me? So he designed the expansion, Legacy of Me. Makes sense.
Yes, I think Shannon Knoll requested it specifically.
Yeah. It's what about me, right? Here we go. So thanks, Shem Phillips, for the best expansion ever, Legacy of Me.
So my favorite expansion by far is the Terraforming Mars Return to Earth expansion. When you're playing with this expansion, at the end of a game, all the players realize that Mars actually sucks and Earth is way better. So the game becomes a race to see which corporation can clean up all of that garbage that they brought with them to the Red Planet and take it home. So I love the theme because I think deep down everyone knows that Mars is actually terrible and we shouldn't be going there. But also what I really appreciate is that because the expansion only uses the components from the original game, the expansion box has literally nothing in it. And in a time when sustainability is becoming more and more important, I really appreciate it when companies put in the extra effort to, put their money where their mouth is. So Return to Earth, definitely my favorite expansion.
Hey everybody, we are so excited to talk to you today about the latest expansion to Quacks of Quedlinburg, and that is the Clinical Trials. In this expansion, we'll be harnessing the power of experimental medieval science to productionize our groundbreaking potions.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk specifics. So this is going to extend gameplay by 1 year per player. So make sure you stay with that game group that whole time. And then this is very thematic. So you're going to be creating potions, inventing them. Then you're going to have to come up with advertising to prove that those people actually think they have those ailments. And then you're going to have to pay off hush money to be able to, for those people that get some side effects like spontaneous bird heads, and so that you can continue with your
That
practice.
part's really important, because if you get caught, you might have to white chip the whole thing and start over. Now, if you do make it to the end of the gameplay, you'll win by getting your potion approved by the Feudal Potion Administration, or the FPA. Once you've done so, you'll be fabulously wealthy for all future games.
This Tigers in Your Face expansion is where the tiles actually become miniature sometimes, and then you can wage war on each other by rolling dice and seeing who wins. The miniatures also spawn from the temples, which no longer give you points, but rather they give you these river stones, which you can use to draw more cards, would let you roll more dice. This is definitely made by Rainier Kinesia.
Hey there, everybody. Well, in full transparency, I'm not the biggest expansions guy in the world, but I do have my favorites. And my number one favorite expansion is for the game 5 Tribes by Bruno Catala. There have been several expansions, but my favorite is the most recent, I Dream of Genie. The idea of adding kind of a Dixit-style element to this strategic rondel game seems like it shouldn't work, but it works amazingly well. Basically, every time you're getting a genie, you're going to be interpreting the power of that genie based upon what you see in these kind of abstract cards. And it really adds a dose of creativity to the strategic game, and I've seen games go in really, really kind of crazy directions. A lot of fun. My number one expansion of all time, 5 Tribes, I Dream of Genie.
The Arkham Horror series is one of my favorite lines, and while the 3rd edition added some really cool changes, there is one expansion that once I played it, I can't play without it, and that is Millennial Horror. Not only does it add tons of new content, including new investigators such as the spiritual influencer and new items such as the box of scrolling distraction, but it also comes with the hardest campaign scenario in the entire line, and that is against the housing market. This will pit you up against this evil elder god, and I have yet to complete it successfully, and from what I've heard, very few have.
Backgammon, Revenge of Gammon is an expansion 3,000 years in the making. Reimagining the abstract game through the lens of modern gaming, Backgammon, Revenge of Gammon is a bold new approach to a tried and true classic. Dice have been replaced by 6 decks of cards, as players build multiple tableaus in order to move their pieces around the board. Backgammon's checkers have also been replaced. Each piece is a custom miniature featuring unique one-time and ongoing abilities. Players race around the board before facing Gammon, the new boss monster awaiting all who dare attempt to end the game before the 4-hour mark. Backgammon, Revenge of Gammon, will hit crowdfunding platforms soon. Stretch goals include asymmetric player boards, solo rules, and a 64-page quick start guide.
I have to say my favorite expansion is Rococo 90s edition.
From MC Hammer pants to low-rise jeans and everything in between, the nostalgia factor is real with this one.
Yes, instead of dressing high society, you'll be going up in the breakfast club with accessories like butterfly clips and fanny packs.
This edition culminates in a rock concert instead of a ball.
Yes, but the pyrotechnics at the end won't make you miss the original fireworks at all.
Sometimes the right expansion can take a game from great to unforgettable, and never has that been more the case than when Food Chain Magnet saw the release of Why the Hell Does Mustard Not Get the Credit It Should? This expansion completely redefined the experience in Food Chain Magnet. Your opponents start out with condominiums near their buildings, and that drives an insane amount of customer traffic. And you, as the odd player out, have to determine what is the special sauce to bring them back to your business.
You know, out of all these expansions I've been hearing about, the number one that comes to my mind has got to be the Castles of Burgundy's 13th expansion, Cannons and Cannibals. The ability of other people using their workers to manipulate their dice, I'm just really sick of it.
Now, no workers.
None.
My favorite expansion by far is Cyclades the God Worshippers. The way it adds worker placement to the game and totally changes the tempo of the way you have to be mindful of not just your own islands, but the way you have to be mindful of your opponent's islands as well, especially because of the unique nature of the way you share worker placement, the way you can worker place on an opponent's zone, and the way that impacts your zone, relinquishing your worshipper, your worker, to your opponent in exchange for benefits. It totally changes up almost a negotiation worker placement kind of approach to one of my favorite games ever. The only real tragedy is unfortunately the Cyclades Cyclades Legendary Edition chose not to incorporate this expansion into it, which means I'm torn because in many ways the Legendary Edition did improve upon the Cyclades experience, but it does so by leaving out one of my favorite expansions, my favorite expansion of all time, which is just a shame all around.
Our favorite expansion of all time is Bad News Bears for Fit to Print. Now, I love this expansion because it adds another day to the week.
It's so much
We have the
fun.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now we have Den Day.
Den Day.
Which is another round with an even bigger newspaper.
It extends the game so it lasts a bit longer, but my favorite part about the game is actually the new tiles that it introduced. The gossip tiles and the fake news tiles.
Yeah, those are some Bad News Bears. And the cool aspect of it too is you can place those tiles into your opponent's newspapers to make them not as newsworthy.
Hi everyone, today I want to introduce you to our favorite new expansion for Foundations of Rome entitled Erectile Dysfunction. The key to success in this expansion is maintaining a firm strategy. You need to stay focused and really put in that hard work.
I'm a fan of the Roman Rampart strategy. It's intense, but rewarding.
That's a good one. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is a prime example. It reminds us that sometimes things don't always go as planned. And if things get really tough, don't worry. This expansion comes with this special set of little blue resources that help you stay in the game.
They are so useful.
It's the game that'll keep you coming back for more.
I'm excited to be able to share with you my most anticipated expansion of 2024. Now this falls on the 10-year anniversary of the release of my favorite game, Don't Mess with Cthulhu. My favorite part about this game is that you, in the game, can lie about your identity. The new hardcore expansion that's coming out is going to feature a lie detector test built into the deluxe box. You've got to be able to tell the truth, poker face that puppy, and win the game. You could of course use the lie detector for other games or other purposes, and so for that reason, I think it's going to be worth it to be able to pick up the new deluxe copy, Mess with Cthulhu.
My favourite expansion is for Vital Lacerda's Lisboa. In that game, in the 1700s, the city was ravaged by an earthquake that caused a tsunami that caused days of fire, and we need to rebuild. Well, history repeated itself in the 20th century when Skegness Pier was damaged by storms and then a fire, and I think a boat crashed into it once. You need to rebuild, but instead of streets and stores, there's majority in various deck chairs for the tired holidaymakers. There's commodity speculation in sticks of rock, Kiss Me Quick hats, that Jolly Fisherman poster. You need to satisfy the demands of the king, but this time of course it's the king of Skegness. You need to win big at this cascading card system that simulates the 2p machines, the coin pushers, and rather than competing for wigs, you're competing for the most coveted thing in Skegness, which is of course tickets to the arcades. And the winner of the expansion can actually take the physical tickets to the Lucky Strike and redeem them for big prizes.
Wow, what an incredible list of expansions. I'm so glad that every board game channel on YouTube was able to participate and not a single one was missing. The only thing we are missing is my pick. And my #1 expansion of all time takes a quintessential crunchy game and makes it even crunchier. That's right, I'm talking about the 1999 expansion to Raisin Bran Crunch.